everyone, welcome to my art channel where we do painting tutorials. Like promised, I am going to do some more winter landscapes, focusing mostly on ways to paint snow. So I've divided my sketchbook into 3 sections, each for a tiny little practice painting. And I start by coloring the sky of my top left one with some ultramarine very lightly, and then I color some mountaintops with Venetian red. I cover the Venetian red with some raw umber. I just want to have all of my various browns on the set all mixed up into my mountain color. Because mountains are not one solid patch of color, you can see all of the various minerals and rocks and whatnot that is on them. So I also add a bit of walnut brown, where is my next shade in my set, and I also add some dark blue. The exact shade is helium blue reddish, and a bit of black, which are going to be my shadow tones where the shadows are hitting. I color the rest of the mountains very lightly with some light ultramarine. That is going to be where the snow is covering them. And I activate this tiny thumbnail starting from the sky. I blend it all very evenly, as even as I can with my watercolor brush. Then I blend the snow and I start blending the shadows. More than blend, I'm actually activating the shadows, meaning I'm just tapping over them with my brush, just enough to make the color activate. And what this does is it makes it a bit more vibrant, a bit more saturated. I like to go over them from light to dark, so I start from where that light browns were, and for last I do the dark blue and the black areas. I leave this base layer to dry and I move on to my second painting. I color the sky with some dark chrome yellow, and feel free to use any bright orange color instead. Then I do a base layer for the mountains with some cadmium orange, and I color the right side of each mountain with some blue because I want the sunlight to be coming from the left, so orange goes on the left and blue goes on the right because that's where the shadows are being casted. Again, I first blend my sky, then I blend the highlights of the mountains, the left side. I add a very small hint of ultramarine under the mountains, again to give the idea of snow. For the last one, I start by coloring the sky with my dark chrome yellow and some phthalo blue on top. I blend from the center downwards. I first blend the yellow to a very smooth wash, and then I do my phthalo blue and I unite the two. Once everything has dried, I take more of that phthalo blue I used for the sky and I do some mountain shapes further up in the distance. At the horizon line, I take my helium blue, which is my darker blue, and I add some shadows to those, and I scribble the area underneath them. I'm using vertical motions for this because I want a huge blue patch right underneath my mountains to look like tons and tons of trees, so I'm going to use vertical scribbles to mimic tree shapes. I blend those with a tapping motion with my brush, and I also activate the blue I used on the mountains. I use some ultramarine for the snow we have up front, just some random scribbles, and then I tap over them with my brush. I go back to my first painting with ultramarine and I do some more shadows in the snow with it, mostly underneath each of the rocky areas where I originally applied the browns. I follow their directions, the angle of each mountain slope. Then I add again a second layer of shadows to the painting underneath, just focusing it on the right side like I said. And I add another hint of yellow to the left side where the sun is hitting our scenery. I take black and I add these random little comma shapes, dots on the shadowy area of the mountains, so it looks like rocks or caves, I don't know, just peeking through the snow. And I add a horizontal stripe underneath the mountains, which is going to be a distant forest. And lastly, I apply some more ultramarine underneath that forest, just in a very loose, big horizontal line right underneath it. Then I take my brush with barely any water and tap over them just enough to activate the black. At this point, my big painting has dried, so I take my black, which I've sharpened, and I start drawing some trees up in the foreground. If drawing is not your thing, you can find a traceable to all 3 of these paintings and many others over at my Patreon page, Sunshine Arts, and by doing so, you also help support me and the channel. And also, like always, you can find a full list of all of the supplies used down in the description box, along with the reference photos I've been viewing on my smartphone. For the trees, it's easier to show you this than to explain it, but I basically just do a straight line and then I only color in black the areas underneath each branch, and I leave an empty space on top of each branch to mimic piled up snow. I'm going to outline the snow in a bit for a more illustrative look, but for now it really helped me to just have my initial sketch with some normal graphite pencil, leave those gaps and only color the areas underneath. Again, I'm just using a tapping motion for this. Whenever I have some excess color on my brush, I either clean it right beneath the tree to just add a very natural looking shadow, or on that big blue area that is going to mimic some trees that are up in the distance. I add some more shadows to the mountains that are up in the background, and some very small, almost triangular-like shapes with black on the blue patch of color. They're going to look like treetops and really help imitate the look of a forest. I add a hint of dark blue to the forest on the bottom left painting, and some more shadows underneath my trees on the right side. I add some tiny little scribbles to look like somebody walked in the snow, like a tiny pathway, and I use it on the parts of the branches that I left blank, again to give the idea of shadows on the snow. I do a final layer with blue on my top left painting. I'm not going to activate these final layers because I really like the texture they give. In my opinion, it really helps mimic snow. With that, these tiny little sketches are finished. I like to give a very special thank you to my patrons for the month of November, and thank you all for watching. If you found any use in this video, please let me know by liking, commenting, and if you have not already, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm currently trying to reach 20,000 subscribers, and it would really mean a lot to me. We'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!